all of you workers who work night and day, by hand and by brain.
We're just more than a football club. Yes, the football club is important, but the football club should be the hub of the community. And I think this shows that we have the capability and the capacity to be more than that.
Spennymoor is a really important part of the Durham miners' story. Obviously, there's a great deal of art there with the Spennymoor settlement, loads of pits around there. So we got involved with Spennymoor town really through Ammar Mirza.
I was born and brought up in the northeast. My business interests are quite varied, so I invest in businesses. I'm really, really passionate about the whole of the northeast. The northeast powered the world through coal mining, and we literally were one of the most prosperous places, not just in the country but across the world, and organisations like Red Hills and Spennymoor town. There is such significant history and heritage around coal mining.
First of all, it was through our community engagement. We're looking to engage with as many sporting and heritage communities as possible. This came through a number of conversations we had with, through energy, through gas savings, and I've got to say I'm absolutely delighted that this has come to this stage.
I've introduced people from the Miners' Union to a businessman I'd worked with as a Member of Parliament. We developed a homeless project in Tyneside, a guy called Ammar Mirza, and we asked him, because things have changed. I've got to go back a little bit. If you think about this building was built and sustained by membership contributions for a century and a half. Effectively, we've had no members for 26 years, so we've basically been running on a reduced, tapering amount of money, and basically we've had to start looking for different avenues for raising funds.
Well, we're here in the Miners' Hall, or the Pitmen's Parliament, as it's known. It's just been voted in the top 100 irreplaceable places by Historic England. So there's only one other parliament involved, and that's the one in London. What we want to do with this place is get it restored to its former glory. We want to turn Red Hills, that's the building that this is in, into a place where people practice, perform and learn about the heritage and culture of the Durham coalfield. It wasn't a big deal. I got into mining really because my brother was a miner, and he was about 8 years older than me, and we used to always go out with his car was always breaking down. So I started like helping to fix it, and he said, have you ever thought about being a mechanic? I says, no, why? Like he said, because there's often really good apprenticeships at the pit. And overnight I said, right, I'll go and do it.
My name's Robert Lowry, and I'm 62. I was born in Horden, in one of the numbered streets, 3rd Street. I started easing colliery when I was 23.
All my family, my grandfather, my uncles, my father were all miners in the region, and some of them left and went down into Staffordshire, into the mines down there, when worked right up here. So yeah, it's very close to myself.
I think if you take football and the community, the interlinked, and if you go back to my father and his father, both worked for the National Coal Board and in the mining industry. And if you look at a lot of little villages, and Spennymoor isn't a little village, but a lot of little villages that surround towns, they're all made up of miners' welfare community centres, miners' welfare football pitches, miners' welfare homes, and the coal board and the mining industry was the heart of everything that the community was about.
I loved my job, and all the camaraderie, all the lads, you know, and the crack was brilliant, you know, and at the end of the day, you go, and I loved seeing the coals go out on the belt. You know, I just get a buzz of it going out, you know, that you've achieved something.
Well, it just become a job like anybody else. You know, you just accept it for what it is. It didn't say, I mean, obviously it was tough at times, and you're working some horrible conditions, but it wasn't like you cried about having to go to work. It was just going to work was the price you paid for the life you lived, and the life we lived was a good one, because we lived in a good community. We had decent housing provided by the coal board. I lived close to work.
I would like to touch on some of the results of the past of this colliery. Going back to 1963, the output per man was only 17.7 hundredweights. Over the years, it's increased to 20, 21, 24, and last year it reached 27.6. Now, we won't be able to break even on this. In fact, we'll lose an awful lot of money. And, of course, this would make it very difficult for the pit to remain open very long. Everybody started to leave when the pit shut. And it made a big void in the community, but there was nothing to do. Like, there's 2,500 men working in there at its height, you know, and all out of a job. And to me, it's just a sin before God. And it's not just here. It was Horden, Blackhall, Seaham, you know, all the northeast area. It was the Cumbria, there was Kent, it's all over the country. 200,000 men lost their jobs.
The best thing was I lived in a community with great people, and the pit and the community were one and the same, and the union was part of that. And I think that's the biggest change I've seen, certainly the last 30 years, where the biggest sadness about the whole pit closure programme is the demise of the community and the spirit the community's had.
Except the pit itself, most of the people work at the pit, and when we close this down, we break up not only the pit but the village life as well. For all, most people will still remain in the village. The majority of them will be working outside the village, and this doesn't lend to the same close-knit community as what it does when the people are employed at the colliery.
Down underground in the deep seams, pitmen forged a unity from which they could laugh at life and fight for independence. You started young, picking on the coal screens, morning to dusk like a galley slave, until in the end accident or one of the old enemies got you, silicosis or hernia or rheumatism, 20, 30, 40 years later. But you stayed together all the time, and the Durham pits moulded a race of big hewers, small men mostly, but bold in their work, and bloody-minded in resistance to the owner.
Well, a lot of people might think it's a large green object that grows in the garden. However, Ammar was your friend. He looked after you, he made sure, and you made sure you looked after him. So if you think you're working in, you know, 3 18-inch, 2-foot working space, you're relying on other people to look after you, and that's where that term came from.
The short term would be a workmate, but it was much more than that. It was like, I guess the nearest comparison probably were lads out serving the army in the trenches. You go to work every day and you're working against the conditions. I guess like, you know, like fishermen and people like that, you're pitching yourself against the elements, and you need somebody to watch your back all the time. And a good man was somebody who would watch your back, and both underground and everywhere else in your life. So people become really good friends to rely on. So you're in tough times financially, or you needed help with something, or you needed a lift anywhere, or you were just doing things, you became matters in every sense of the word. It's just very, very close comradeship and friendship. Everybody in County Durham knows what Ammar is, but you want to get that word out to the rest of the world. Ammar is your best mate. He's the person that you, or she now, who you trust your life with. So we've called the Friends of the Durham Miners Gala Ammars, because that's what they are.
Strange, really. The stone had come down and buried me, and I don't know how long I was out for, but I woke up and I was under it, and I was like, that's all right. I got the mug out my mouth, and I said, my back's all right, my arms is all right, but I couldn't move my legs. So, and I could hear all this commotion going on. So I knew they'd get us out, and then, you know, I didn't know the extent of it because I couldn't see I was underneath it. But anyway, what the lads done, they lifted this big stone off the top. What happened was, the unit was down like that, and the stone came and hit the top of the unit. but I was underneath that. But they lifted it all off, and it's strange really. It's rather emotional. The lads pulled us out, and I just looked at them and I went, cheers, you know. And John, I looked at him and I said, are you alright?